Yeah, it's a big pile of wood. Yeah, exactly. Hey guys, welcome back to another weekly sawing adventure here at the old Hobby Hardwood. I'm Robert Milton and this is Hobby Hardwood. And a few weeks ago we talked about three-phase power, and I did a whole video on one way to get three-phase power, which is using a phase converter. We have a 30 horse phase converter. We use it every day. We love it. It's great, but it will not run the big gulp. This big gulp is around, I just call it the big gulp. It's a big flattening planer. It's I think 55 horsepower total. In addition to our phase converter, we bought a big generator. Now there's a couple things to know about generators. One of which is, most people don't realize it, is that as you load a generator up, remember it's got windings. It's got basically an electric motor in reverse. You know, electric motor, you put power in, it spins, you get mechanical force out. Generator is exactly the opposite. You take an internal combustion engine that turns the shaft that spins the armature, and it produces electrical power. So it's reverse of what you would normally think as far as running a motor, but it's the same thing. The cool thing about a generator is it will provide cleaner power the more it's loaded up to its rated capacity. Now we're going to plane some wood just a little bit, and I'm going to show you something that's pretty cool. When I first start this guy up, this has what are called ammeters, current meters, bottom cutter, top cutter, feed motor. When we first crank it up, you'll see the needle go way high and come back down. Same thing on this one and that one. I'll show you when I do it. But that is called Inrush. But that spike of current that an electric motor requires to get started is called Inrush. And that really defines how much you're going to need for your phase converter or your generator. So most times, like with my planer, you'll see the needles, it's only going to be running at, you know, a much lower amp draw, maybe up to 20 amps. Although the Inrush may be 50 or 60 at spike right at the beginning. On a phase converter, that's where the phase converter will fire some capacitors, basically batteries, and it will supply an extra boost of power to power the electric motor through the startup phase and the Inrush phase. And when the motor settles back down, the capacitors stop firing and you're basically off line power. So when you're buying a generator, you can spend as much or as little as you want on one. This little guy right, or the generator we got out there, was well under 10 grand. It's an old one. You can buy a brand new and it's going to be 3 or 4 times, 5 times that much. You don't really get a whole lot more with the new ones except a warranty. What you do get is a lot more complexity, because the newer generators are designed, you know, they're auto turn on, auto standby, automatic power switching. When your house or your power goes off, they turn themselves on, supply your house. You don't need any of that when you're running machine tools. Some house generators, in order to really provide a crazy clean signal for your computers and stuff, so instead of 1800 RPM, they're running at 3600 RPM. Still within the rated speed of the motor, but guess what happens when you're running a motor at twice the RPM and a generator armature at twice the RPM? You're going to lose a lot of life. That's really not a problem for a backup house generator, because how long is it going to be running anyway? Most of those put on more hours on their routine startup and monthly check phase than they do actually running the house or the building. So longevity is not really a problem. However, if you're buying one to run your equipment, longevity is a problem. So you would want old school, if you can find it, very uncomplicated electronics, if you can find it, obviously in good running shape, and you want one that's 1800 RPM. So ours is an old school Generac. It's not the best, it's not the worst. In case you're wondering if TV is real or not, any of those shows that you see where, oh my gosh, the hospital's out of power because the generator's not kicking off, that's a bunch of crap. Let me rephrase that. That's a bunch of hooey. The hospital does not run off one generator. It runs off a bank of smaller generators. That way, if one or two don't turn on, the other ones do, and it will supply enough power to keep the hospital running. So they have smaller units like this. This is an 80 kW, 80 kilowatt. They have a bunch of smaller units, some bigger, some smaller, but the scenario of, oh, the hospital's lights are out, we can't operate, that doesn't happen in the real world because you just install a bunch of small generators. That way some are going to run even on a bad day. Anyway, this is a Generac generator. It's pretty old, it's fine, which means I got a great price on it. 7.3 liter V8. I mean, you can look at this thing and see there's not a whole lot on it. Interestingly enough, they still sell parts for these older motors. When this radiator tank died, I was able to go to my AutoZone and buy the exact same replacement tank. The only real difference is what fuel it's going to run on. This one runs on liquid propane, so it has what's called a vaporizer right there. And the fuel comes in from a tank, goes through here, gets preheated, and goes down into the car and goes into the vaporizer, which is basically a carburetor for natural gas. You'll notice, and I've talked about it before, you always have a battery switch to connect or disconnect the battery because batteries sometimes burn up, bad things happen. It's not like you're going to need to go into auto start mode on this anyway, simply because, you know, you don't need to. When you're ready to run the plane or your machine tool, guess what? You just run it. The generator itself covers the whole back half of the enclosure. This is what it looks like. Old school switches, gauges, and whatnot. Nothing really fancy. Now, a couple years ago, I did have the fuel controller die, and I just bought an aftermarket one. It's actually was very easy to install. A few wires, a few pickups right here and there, and the thing's never run better. As a matter of fact, I still leave the timing light hooked up because that measures true RPM, and I want it to be right at 1800 RPM. And I think I got it. It was 20 years old. It had 500 hours on it. That's nothing. So what they do with these generators, like for cell phone towers, hospitals, anything where you have critical power, once they reach a certain age, whether they're running or not, they just take them out of service. Then they buy new ones, they install the new ones, and then they sell the used ones really cheap. So these big ones, these industrial ones, are actually less expensive than, say, a little bitty one, say a 6 kilowatt or a 5 kilowatt that's designed to be used on a house, simply because the demand for these generators, for a used generator that's out of service, is so low, sometimes they have trouble selling them. So I got a great deal on this one, and I still go online and look. And one of my strategies is to simply find another one like this real cheap and just buy the exact same model. I bet I could probably get one for $6 grand right now. This whole thing for like $6,000. Set it out in the field. And when a part breaks, I just start swapping parts because nobody wants them, or there's less demand, especially ones that are hard pad mounted. Now, I mean, you get some that are on wheels or trailers. Yeah, those are pretty high. A lot of hours, they're pretty high, but ones that just sit on the concrete, I mean, who else is going to use this unless you're a hospital or cell phone tower, and then you got to get a new one that's under warranty. So there's not really a big market for low hour, old big commercial generators. Save a ton of money. So let's talk about fuel here. They basically run on 3 different kinds of fuel. They run on liquid propane. What's interesting about this one is this runs on the liquefied LP liquid, the liquid side. So when you're running your house, you'll typically see a hose coming out of the top of the tank. That's siphoning off the gas. This one is pulling the line off the bottom of the tank, and that's a 1-inch line of pure liquid. This one has a phone home station on the top of it. So when it starts to get low, it just tells the dealer and they come out and fill it up. One way to fuel one is off LP, either the gas or the liquid side. That's typically how most of your home backup generators are run. They come right off your house. You probably have a county gas supplied or something like that through a line. That's how those guys are run. However, since this was an old car engine, it was originally designed to run off gasoline. And you could certainly convert it back to a gasoline engine. That would be fine. The third type of fuel is diesel. It's hard to argue with a diesel. But something you have to consider is the life of the generator. So the old rule of thumb is a gasoline motor is going to last 5,000 hours before you need to overhaul. Now, I mean, that's just sometimes more, sometimes less, but that's a good rule of thumb. A diesel, you're looking around 10,000 to 12,000 hours, and you're probably going to need an overhaul on the engine or just a replacement of the engine. A gas engine, those ratings go up to the 20 and 30,000 hours, simply because LP gas is extremely clean as far as trash, particulates, contaminants. And therefore, when it goes into the engine, it burns very cleanly, and the engines last a lot longer. So that's why you don't see a lot of gasoline generators, except the ones, the little bitty ones you get at Home Depot or Lowe's or something that you put in your garage to run your house for the time the power poles do come down. Because you're never, since it's a backup, you're never going to probably put 3,000 hours on it, 4,000 hours. You'll never do that. If you do that, yeah, you need to get a new generator. You need to get a real generator, not the backup, the little backup. So longevity on them isn't really an issue. Typically, the diesel generators are going to be the self-contained prime power. They're the ones you're going to see on trailers or at work sites. They look like a box on wheels. Typically, those are diesel. Diesel's easy to call in a truck. They'll pump fuel into it. There is a difference between LP and natural gas. It's not much. Most generators can be very easily configured for one or the other. Typically, you switch out an orifice or a valve, or you just reprogram the controller and say, oh, I'm running off LP versus natural gas, and the generator has no problem with it. So normally that's not really an issue. If your generator is going to be used every day, 8 hours a day for a normal work year, you're going to be burning about 2,000 hours on it. So if you get a gasoline generator, and remember how much life I said it would have, you may get a couple years out of it. That ain't much. If you get a diesel generator, get it to last 10,000 hours, you're talking around 5 years, and then you're going to have to replace the motor. If you buy a gas, an LP, or even a natural gas system or an LP, like mine, an LP, and you can get 20 to 30,000 hours of it, just call it 20. I know when we were buying our LP powered forklift, 25,000 hours was not bad. The engines look great. So now you're talking, say just round down to 20,000 hours, you're talking 10 years of service life with no issues. That's huge. When I change the oil on that thing, it comes out clean every year. It's like I just put it in, because the natural gas burns, or the LP gas burns so clean. So that's another consideration. If you're wondering why we went with the LP selection of fuel versus a diesel or gasoline, that's why. Hey, Chippy, wake up, it's lunchtime. Oh, okay. Let's go. There you go. It's lunchtime. Let's go get something to eat.
Showing right here at 480 volt, and you can see it's right at 1800 RPM.
We're going to turn the electrical switch on. We're going to set the depth 0.75 inches. Of course, the bed moves automatically. I don't have to do this. The machine does it. You see, this machine is not being stressed at all doing this. It'll take a 1/4 inch off the bottom, a 1/4 inch off the top at the same time. So it'll take a 1/2 inch of wood per pass, and we're taking a lot less. We're taking a lot less. So watch the inrush now. So I'm going to turn this head on. Watch how the needle goes way high and steadies back down. And you actually hear the generator. I don't know if you'll hear it. The generator will throttle up for a second to compensate for the extra power needed, and then it'll drop down. And remember, it's always maintaining 1800 RPM. That's the point of a generator. You don't want 60 cycle turning into 70 cycle. So that's what the generator has to do. But watch the needle. You'll see it pop. Just watch it. That was a second. So that's a 2-stage startup. You saw how high it went. But notice when it's not really doing anything, how low the power is required to keep it just idling, the planer. And when we're running, we're really not going to be running more than 25 amps per head. Well, since we're taking such a light bite, it's going to be a lot less than that. But the generator's sized to run the whole thing. Let's watch the inrush of this guy, bottom cutter right here. Or excuse me, this is the top cutter. This is the top cutter. It's bottom cutter. It's top cutter. 60. Go. So the first one gets the motor, electric motor, up to almost operating speed, and then the second one, second bump is when it basically throws full power to it. And then we're going to do the feed chain, which is pretty much nothing. So remember, we're flattening the bottom, and then we're facing the top. That's why this is called a flattening planer, not a normal planer, which is really just a thicknesser. This machine is designed to face and flatten the bottom of the board, and then the top cutter cuts it to the appropriate thickness, which in this case is right at 3/4 of an inch. And yes, in case you're wondering, I can go all the way across with the board, and Martha gets unhappy because I have multiple boards spitting out at the same time, and it makes it hard for her to stack. So typically, I'll just do one board at a time. But yeah, this thing, at the rate it's running, I could see 5 boards in there probably, each at full 25-inch width, and it's not gonna care. And in case you're saying, oh, he's planing some soft wood, this is maple. As a general rule, when you're feeding a planer, in order to avoid kickback, you want to try to get all your boards on the same track. That way, if one kicks back, the other one's going to stop it. That's why you don't see me just staggering them. I'm kind of picking a lane, sticking with it. Maple. Pretty hard stuff. The big gulp. Does not care. If you've got a sawmill business and you're kiln drying wood and you're still running off a single phase planer, you really need to upgrade to a 3-phase. It opens up a huge amount of opportunity. And remember, we're planing both sides at once. So I'll send two in at the end, so she knows that's the end of this pack. Now we're going to do these little guys. The old big jaw, he eats wood. We sell a lot of these shorts in case you're wondering, but it's hard to sell a short board as a 15/16. Well, all these are being processed to be a true surface 4 size S4F ready to use. So when we run this through this planer, we're not just bringing them down from 15/16 for no reason. We're increasing their value to bring them to a S4S retail grade, better than retail, basically 0 knot, 0 defect board, better than what you can buy at the store because there's no knot, but also because it's being flattened as it's going through. So in case you're wondering, yes, so every board that we saw goes through this planer to at least bring it down to what's called a hit or miss plane, which basically we set the thickness and we're just wanting to get it smooth, get the saw tracks out, and that way we can grade it. And then a lot of the wood we're going to sell as hit or miss or skip plane, but again, these shorts, to make them more desirable, we'll go ahead and run them again, drop it down to a true 3/4 of an inch, increase the value for not a whole lot of work. Last board. And this bin was empty when we started. It's a lot of sawdust. Yeah, it's a big pile of wood. No puppy. Chip says, "Hey everybody. Hey everybody. Everybody at home." Yeah, good dog. Hey, can you pick that up, Chip? Pick it up, Chip. Get it. Get it. Thank you. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Yeah, let's come over here and throw it in the garbage can. He's such a smart dog. Guys, from Martha and me and Chip, we will see y'all next week. I know the show's over because the doors are coming down. Thanks for visiting our sawmill. Click on the links above to see more of our videos.